Hey folks, welcome back. Wendy Tay Water from Angel Desk YouTube channel and My Doomsday Coach, where we spread the light so you can be the light in the world today, the world that we are experiencing in chaos. So I know that I've been gone a while, and I want to apologize for that. I did finish up a contract for helping get COVID vaccines out, doing some data analytics for that. I've also been offered a position as a director with a very prestigious local organization, which I will not name because I want to be clear that I do not want to obtain any sort of favors or anything as a result of being a part of that organization. This is strictly for you, my personal channel, to help you get through what's going on today with the crisis. Here we are. It is 2021. We are exactly 1 year and 1 month past the advent of COVID. We talked a little bit in our last video about how abuse cycles can perpetuate themselves in a lockdown situation. And we were supposed to get to lifestyles, how do I cope? Lifestyle differences in families. Again, I apologize it's been so long, but with everything happening, I've been rocking and rolling behind the scenes trying to help us get through this very difficult pandemic. And now I'll be helping a local organization expand beyond their current, let's just say, borders. I don't know what to say. So I do not want to leave you hanging. We definitely need to talk about lifestyle. We've heard if you hear it on the news right now, you're hearing a lot about Asian hate crimes, all kinds of things going on. We keep talking about, and it seems like we keep repeating a pattern of dysfunction in our society. And as many of you have heard me talk about before, it is important that if we want to change society, we must understand, apologize, my neighbor is mowing the lawn for some reason at this odd time of day. Anyway, if we want to perpetuate peace and change in society today, we have to make sure that we perpetuate peace in our homes. And one of the things that I think we have a really hard time as a country and as a family, as most families do, is talking about differences in lifestyles. Back in the olden days, I say olden days, we're going to talk about, the 1950s, the early 60s. During those times, a lot of people didn't live outside of the neighborhood in which they grew up in. And with the advance of economic opportunities, people have traveled further away. And in our current climate, we are so blessed to live in a country where we can do international commerce. So not only are we moving across our country for economic opportunities, but we are moving out of the country for our economic opportunities. And a lot of people come to America because of the opportunities that are available here with our interesting capitalistic society. You come here to America, and even despite all the obstacles, you may be able to become a millionaire with just some good hard work and sweat. Well, with the advent of other cultures entering the country and the advent of activities that are more diverse, with a more diverse population, we find that we're exposed to different lifestyles, different ways of doing business, different ways of living day-to-day life. And this is especially apparent in families. Now, the families start to fracture, right? So we start to fracture as a family in society, or society's families in America, because we disagreed on a lot of ways to live our lives. So some of our people have political ideologies that are different. Some of our people have addiction and drug abuse issues. These are all things that have, and also abuse and sexual orientation, job types. There are so many reasons why a family may disagree within their household on how one should live. This has caused families to absolutely tear apart. We saw that happen last year. What a horrible time in history. And I am so sorry for the background noise for the neighbor mowing the lawn. We'll just push through. So last year we saw an absolute advent of hate crime. We saw divisions within families because of political ideologies. We've always had issues with people who have different sexual orientation being marginalized by their families. And that has led to a lot of breaking down of the self. Because when you're separated from your family, when you're pushed out for whatever reason, you lose a piece of your identity. And unfortunately, when you lose a piece of your identity, sometimes that can lead to behaviors that are, I wouldn't always say addictive, but they can be addictive, or just behaviors where there's just a simple rejection. You know, mom and dad don't want me home, so I'm just not going to talk to mom and dad anymore. It becomes a real pride issue when we have a different lifestyle and than what our families agree with. On both sides. So the families don't want to accept that lifestyle, and the people who are marginalized don't want to go back to the family because they don't want to fight. So what do we do? So you have to think through this again. First of all, let's break it down. Political ideologies. Yeah, you might have some Republicans in your house. You might have some Democrats. Might have some libertarians, might have some independents. Does that mean you can't be a family anymore? No, it doesn't. It means you can still be a family. But people get so heated about their political ideologies, usually related to their beliefs about morality. And the moral center, as you know, for me, has been Christianity. As I stated before, I am a Christian. I do not apologize for it, and I am proud of it, but I'm not going to berate someone who is not. So just as I may speak of topics openly that might have a Christian worldview, I would also like to hear from someone who has a Muslim worldview, or maybe a Wiccan worldview, or, you know, again, political ideologies rooted in morality or desire for release from constraints of any sort of societal expectations. But is it something we can't get through? Is it something we can't talk about? No, we can't. And then, you know, we talk about addiction and drug abuse. So not just addiction. Addiction doesn't just come with drugs. Addiction can be for money, or it could be for sex, or it could be for drugs. But addiction is addiction. But addiction is a strong desire to put everything aside for that one thing that you want to have. That kind of lifestyle difference is destructive. And we might have to talk about having some sort of intervention for issues of addiction, drug abuse, and abuse. And as I stated before, we already talked about the abuse cycle in my last video. Job types. Have you ever been in a room with someone you really cared about and you may work as a sanitation worker, and maybe the person you really cared about worked as an executive for a major corporation? And say that executive from the major corporation talks down to you for being a sanitation worker. Well, that's a lifestyle choice and change too. Sometimes, you know, people don't always have the same economic opportunities, but you do what you have to do to support your family. It doesn't mean that that job is any less or any greater than the other person's job. So job types can also separate a family. But how do we move past these lifestyle choices? And again, I want to try to keep these videos under 20 minutes so we can get them easily uploaded, because you know I have such a hard time being in the middle of nowhere uploading videos. But the first part in moving past the lifestyle is acceptance. Can you look at your son or daughter who loves someone of a different nationality or of a different gender than you would prefer them love? and still care about them? Can you let them in your household? I know as a Christian, we oftentimes, talk a lot about how important traditional sexuality is to our faith. And I have seen the horrors of what happens when we speak against those who do not share our beliefs. We can express our beliefs. We can live within our beliefs. But should we abandon our son or daughter because of their preferences, their sexual gender preferences? I just can't get down with that. Even in the Bible, it talks about, love others as you love yourself. So why would you reject that part of yourself? It's all about love. And it doesn't mean that you cannot express your disagreement with that lifestyle. That's the whole point. You can accept that this is the path that your child is on. And in return, the child can accept that the parents' beliefs are the parents' beliefs. But you kind of have to put up a foundation first, don't you? Don't you have to kind of talk about what your beliefs are along the way? It seems like such a simple thing, but unfortunately, a lot of families do not do this. A lot of families end up, when a lifestyle choice comes up that is contradictory, that's when they choose to speak. And they're not speaking politely. They're speaking angrily, loudly. And that is not the time to start talking about these things and reject your family member because of their lifestyle. That foundation should have been set a long time ago. You should have been able to talk about those differences a long time ago. What does that mean? Okay. It means listening to the other point of view. Hey, mom. Hey, dad, I decided to marry someone from West Africa. And maybe you have a very negative opinion for West Africa. You've heard about all kinds of things about people from West Africa. And you get angry about your child marrying someone from West Africa. Well, what if we said, you're marrying someone from West Africa? Okay, why? And why haven't you introduced me yet? What attracted you to someone from West Africa versus someone from the United States? Now you're starting to have a conversation. And it's also about tone of voice. Notice the difference. Tell me about why you decided to marry someone from West Africa. I want to understand that a little bit better. Instead of, you're marrying someone from West Africa? Why? Very different. Okay? We must create a place of safety within our own homes. That means you are able to talk about any subject, any difficult subject, any difficult problem. So you listen to each other's point of view. You can also have positive arguments. So the first step is acceptance. The second, listening. The third, have a positive argument. If you don't agree, you can say, well, Susie, I disagree with you marrying the person from South Africa. However, I do understand your reasons for wanting to marry someone from West Africa. But let me explain to you why I think you should marry an American. Let's talk about some of the challenges you may have for marrying someone from West Africa. I'm only saying this because I love you and I want us to be able to discuss it. And so you express your point of view. But in addition, you've got to listen. Listening. You got, what is that old saying? You got 2 ears, 1 mouth. So that means we should be listening more than we speak. So you can listen and say, and give her the opportunity to respond. Well, Mom, I hear what you're saying. I understand that you disagree with the way they live and the culture. But this is really where my heart is leading me. And this is how I can overcome those challenges. I appreciate you bringing those up because, I've been really worried about how you feel about this. And I really want us to continue to be a family. So let's talk about how we can work together, even though you disagree with my decision. And there you go. because ultimately each individual has freedom. And you may say, but Wendy, we can't talk to someone, who, is a person who has addictions or is abusive. We can't have those conversations, those grown-up conversations with those people. Well, you're right. Because if someone is in a lifestyle of addiction or a lifestyle of abuse, then you're talking it's time for intervention. And as I've stated before, that's when you bring in a counselor or a mediator, a third party to help push through this situation. Or you might have to straight up have your significant other committed if they are an endangerment to themselves or other people. If you have any questions about that, you can send me a private message. I'll be happy to talk with you about how to go about that, how to assess the situation, see if that's really necessary. That would be the last step. You would continue to try to communicate to try to get get the understandings heard. And it's not pie in the sky. These conversations are difficult. Lifestyle differences is a very difficult conversation. It's uncomfortable because we all think we're right. We all think that we know what's best for the other person. But sometimes if you just listen, you can understand, well, maybe I can see through their lenses where they're coming from. And then, of course, to conclude this, you must have mercy and forgiveness. Maybe you have a parent that was a drug addict and they're recovered now. And while they were in their addiction, they were very physically abusive. But they've gotten counseling. You guys have worked together. And now, you just don't trust your parent. Are you going to go back to the addiction? Are you going to go back to the way it was? Look at all the things you put me through. No, because at the time, any addiction or any sort of abusive situation is rooted in pain. So that's where we must have mercy. If there's change in the person. If there's not change in the person, if you watch my last video, you gotta leave the situation. But if there is change in the person, then you have to say to yourself, you know what? I have to forgive my mom or my dad for that time in my life so I can move on, so I can be free. Forgiveness is not for us. It is to let ourselves be free. And you say, how can I do that? How can I forgive? I'm so angry. Well, again, counseling is not a miracle pill, but it does take a lot of personal work to push through to get to a place of forgiveness if you have been deeply scarred or hurt by someone who you love. So that's all we're going to talk about today. That's the first step. Now, I'm not going to do any more videos after this for a while. I want to go ahead and make that clear. I will mainly be writing articles. So if you want to continue to receive information, just send me a private message. Again, this week, I know I was supposed to shut down the Facebook page a couple of weeks ago, but I have been extremely busy. So what's going to happen is I'm going to give anyone who desires it to join privately to see those postings. I'm going to give you 3 more days okay, before I shut it down. And then I'm going to shut it down, and all I will be doing are postings on different subject matters because I will be very busy as the director of this organization getting them where they need to be. But I will make time to write. I always make time to write, but it's hard to do a video because it takes a lot of time to upload and whatnot. So thank you again. If you need help, just send me a private message. If you have any comments about what we've talked about, go ahead and send me a post. It's okay. If you have any questions or any subjects you'd like to see in the future, please be sure to leave a comment and let me know, and I will address that in one of our future articles. So again, thank you. Wendy Taywater from Angel Desk and My Doomsday Coach. Be the light and spread the light. Have a great day.